So we got the radio block thing, whatever you want to call it, all wrapped up. Now I'm ready to have Jacob do the new carpet kit and sound deadening in my car. However, I thought I'd probably share with you what it ended up doing. As you already know, there's the radio controller, and you'll see how that works in a minute. But I also, because sometimes you want to plug your phone directly in for just a cleaner conditional sound, I've yet to find validation for that because this unit works pretty good with good, clear resolution without it. But if I did want to use it, all I have to do is take my little jack, plug it into the back of my phone, and right here where the cigarette lighter was, plug it in there. And from here to there, I have a direct tethered connection for higher audio resolution. Also, in the process of doing all this, it was almost a shame to kind of ignore the fact that we had power sitting right here from the ashtray, or the former lighter. So we put in a mini USB power cord back here. Now once the seats and the interior is in, this is going to be very difficult to see. And that's what I wanted. I don't want the modern technology kind of standing out in the car whatsoever. So in closing, what we have is a nice little radio system that pairs with my phone as soon as I turn on the car, if I wish it to. It has a nice little 100-watt amp that drives the speakers, which are in the back parcel tray. And it's a relatively clean system. As you can see, when it's all closed up, there's very little for you to see that will make you think that there's a radio in this car. So let's see how it sounds. So I turn on my ignition, and for the first time, normally it'll power itself up, okay? See that blue light? That's what I didn't want. That's why it's closed up. But anyway, voila, I'm done. Now normally, when I turn on the car, all this will instantly pair into itself, and it'll ask me if I want to listen to the music or not, and I'll confirm or deny. However, you're hearing Elvis Costello just as clear as can be. It's good loud sounds, and this is barely turned up. I mean, you can really crank this thing up if you want to, and that's just partial driven off the phone. Plus, I have my own power ups right here. But as you see, again, that blue, no thanks. If I don't want to listen to this song, I can just fast forward to the next song. I'm not messing with my phone. I'm not exploring other ideas. I'm not becoming a danger to the road. And it's all done. My phone gets low on power, plug it into my new USB ports. Let me pause it for you. See how simple that was? I don't want to look at it. Done and done. Okay, so this is a console switch control for a Montreal. Here's brand new switches for it. At some point in time in life, this car, somebody had hogged out the holes, and the switches don't fit in some places, plus it's cracked. Sometimes these are available, but it's hit and miss, and right now it's miss. So we have to do the next best thing. We have a plastic welding system, and we use this religiously because you think about the center consoles and the dash controls and all the things in some of these GTs that are very difficult to find at best, and to find good ones is even harder. So now we've kind of come to the resource where we start welding some of this stuff back in place, and we can make it look pretty doggone good. And that's what we're doing here. Now this has a brake right here. We even have the ability to repair or replace gigantic pieces of missing plastic with the various products that come with this. For example, this product right here is a real wide banded material, and essentially this has fibrous strands in it, and what it does is you would melt this with your plastic welder. You literally replace missing plastic. Once it cools down and becomes incredibly rigid, it is absolutely no different structurally than what was there originally. Now plastic welders come with a wide variety of mediums to use. The reason it has to come that way is because there is a million different kinds of plastics out there, so you need to resolve what plastic you have before you go and weld it, because temperature control is sensitive to the melting point of each plastic. Okay. Plus, the mediums that you use, they're constructed in a way that they will melt or meld to the product that they're supposed to belong to, and they may reject against other plastics. So it's kind of important to know which one you have. Now, I put down some aluminum tape here because I have to bring this plastic back together, because it's when it cracked, it popped open. Not uncommon. There, now I have those two pieces of plastic put together. Now this type of welding process, what you do, and there's several different kinds of tips. You feed this through this hole in the back, it comes out the top and it melts the two together. So, here we go. That stuff smells horrible. Now I'm going to let that cool down a little bit, and what we're going to do is we're going to have a buildup, and that's a good thing. But once it cools down, then we will carefully file away what we don't need so as to replicate what was there. Now that's just fixing that crack. Once that crack cools down, then I have a little more structural rigidity to this, and I can start replacing some of the other pieces on here that are broken off. Okay, as normal, we are at shop and we are working, so if the noise is too much for you, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, so at this point what I've done is I've welded the front and welded the rear. Once we file this back, it's going to look great. Now I put aluminum tape over the areas where I'm missing massive parts of plastic. And this is kind of tricky to do because I'm trying to make a plastic bond to this, and yet be strong enough to resist this being pushed in. So I put some foil tape down here as to transfer that heat and to give that plastic somewhere to stop spreading to. So now, feeding it through, letting it kind of melt a little bit, so to speak. And I'm creating essentially a new wall. Okay, so that's one. We'll let that one cool off there. There isn't a tremendous learning curve on this. It's something you can kind of get a feel for very quickly. Okay, once this cools down, hardens, then I'll be able to file it away to create the space I need for the switches to go back into. We'll put in what's called a plastic blackout paint. It's going to look great. Okay, so we are in the middle of restoring some DCOE 40s for a 2-liter we have in here. Now, when I say restore, I don't mean that we're going to go back to an absolute gold cad coating and glass bead blast the carbs and everything, because this particular customer isn't really interested in all that. They just want the carburetors good and functional. So what we did is we had these soaking in a carburetor chemical dip for about a week, and it has taken off every bit of the old dirt and grime from what was in the side of the carburetors and out. It is delacquered any of the old gas as well. Anyhow, so now we're at the point where we need to start putting these bad boys back together. Now, one thing about soaking carburetors in a chemical solution for a long period of time, odds are the bearings, which are here and here, are going to be a little bit wore out, so to speak. And the reason that's going to happen is because when you have the chemical solution in contact with bearings, it tends to take away from the surface of the bearings, and they'll get a little sloppy, or they'll get a little tight to move, and they're not very fluid. And it's important that those bearings are smooth as silk when they're throttling. Anyhow, with that said, there is a million places out there that you can buy carburetor rebuild kits, and quite honestly, you get what you pay for in most cases. In some cases, you overpay for no more than what you're getting. Now, if you were to go to any given carburetor specialty site, you're probably going to pay anywhere from 30 to 50 bucks for just the gasket and O-ring set. That's all you're going to get. You know, if you're lucky, you might get the needle and seat for the floats, but that's about it. Anyway, we found this place out of Czechoslovakia, and I think I've told you about them before. We don't make a habit of marketing other companies, but this is one of those cases you have to give them a little bit of credit. This is a place out of Czechoslovakia that provides the most intuitive, comprehensive, complete rebuild kit you could ever imagine. And you can find them on eBay. Their tag name, if you look under like Weber carburetor parts, they are Carbs.deals. And they're really, really customer friendly. And if you have Webers, Delortos, or Solexes, they have the parts for you, and they're really, really fair priced. So for no more than what I would pay for to buy a set of carburetor rebuild kits in the US, this is essentially all I would get, that and the O-rings. So this would be the conclusion of that set. But through these guys, you get a brand new cap that's properly gold catted. You get the actual bearings for the butterflies. You get a new needle and seat, appropriate for the carburetor you're building, not just a generic set. You just let them know which one you need. What I really like is you get the air mixture screws too, brand new, gold cat coated, and you get the top screws and the rear plate screws and the bottom screws, all brand new, nicely done. And this is for no more money, to include shipping, than if I were to buy these in the States somewhere. And what you get that you never really ever see is an itemized list and instructions on how to put this stuff together if you need it. So the point is if you're at that crossroads where you have to restore your carburetors or at least rebuild them because of either leaks or rough running or whatever your purposes are, and you're going through a similar situation, I would encourage you to look these guys up on eBay. Again, they're carbs.deals. Can't miss them. They're all over eBay. I mean, really, pay no mind to the fact that they're in Czechoslovakia. Their customer service is fantastic. Shipping's fairly quick and it's really reasonable. You get an awful lot for your buying power. I mean, an awful lot. Now this toolbox is specifically designated just for carburetor rebuilds, whether it be our kits or if we are improving on jet sizing. We have a full arsenal of what we're doing, so we have all sorts of selections at our disposal. And the nice thing about this is when we're redoing a set of carburetors, we have sets in here for 40s and 45s. So we basically have everything we need to put the carburetors together. Sometimes we actually pull carburetors out of inventory. So we have 40s and 45s that we keep on hand only in the Italian-made ones. We shy away from the Spanish-made ones just simply because we've had too many problems out of them. So we found it to be in our best interest to take an old set of original Italian Weber carburetors and restore them versus buying brand new Spanish-made ones. And that's just our way of approaching things. You can do like you wish, but again, we found it to be far more valuable labor and reliability wise to just use or repurpose or restore an old set of Italian Webers versus buying the new ones that are out on the market now. Okay, so these rebuild kits that we're talking about getting, they come with a lot of fantastic parts. Here's the original butterfly bearing right here. Here's the replacement one. The original ones are open bearings. This one is grinding. It's a little bit wore out. Thank goodness we get new ones. The new ones are sealed. That's a good thing because these will last longer. The other nice thing you almost never see in a rebuild kit is here's the wick gaskets that sit over the bearing. It comes with new ones. I'm telling you, if you got to rebuild your carbs, you really need to check out these guys at Carb Deals because they seem to have the most comprehensive rebuild package you ever seen in your life. And I have all my jets out and these have all been cleaned and everything's ready to go, but the new ones, the rebuild kits come with nice new hardware, nice new idle needles, everything. So you don't have to reuse any of that stuff, with the exception of maybe the springs and obviously the jets and most of them tubes and things like that. But I have to admit, I am pleasantly surprised that this kit is this complete. Very, very nice. Okay, for a refresh set of carburetors, that doesn't look too bad. This is completely something you can accomplish at home. Again, as you can see, having all the new hardware that comes with these carb kits, it's the way to go. We were able to take a nice original set of Webers that were, quite frankly, very tired, certainly needed a rebuild, and we were able to restore them to a condition that is in usable shape. Now, if you're going for a concourse car, then we would send these out and have these done by a Weber specialist, if you will. But in the serviceability application, we're just getting the car up and going. That's pretty respectable. Okay, so we've had this differential in inventory for a very long time. And what we do, we are repurposing this LSD into another car. But before we do that, we have to inspect the ring and pinion relationship. The subtlest of rubbing issues will create all sorts of mayhem, meaning from noise to sometimes chattering and things of that nature. And we do not even begin to try to index these. This is something we send out to somebody else who has all the tooling to index it, meaning if I needed a relationship off of or closer to the ring and pinions relationship, there's special shims that go inside here. And they don't necessarily have to be alpha shims. Believe it or not, there are shims for Dodges, for those of you in the States, there are shims for Dodges that are the same diameter as this. So a lot of these differential shops know that, and that's what they use. Anyway, so looking at this, I'm looking for any kind of witness marks. Witness marks are basically where metal in contact is becoming excessive and there would be eroding of two gears where they meet. And I can attest that this one looks remarkably good. Now you have to keep in mind, there's all sorts of aftermarket ring and pinion companies out there, and some of them actually make ring and pinions for alphas. But none of them, and I mean none of them, are as good as the original gears. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Very good. Very, very good. We have a continuous contact rub, but it's not any noticeable erosion from the ring and the pinion. So this is going to be perfectly good to repurpose. Now we'll put in new bearings on each side of the limited slip. We're going to put in new seals, new bearings on the exteriors. We'll put in a new front seal, and obviously we'll clean all this up, and we will paint the tubes, and it'll be brand new. Okay, because we didn't remove the actual shims and everything responsible for the relationship of the pinion and the ring gear, there's no reason for me to worry about indexing it. Because again, this ring and pinion are not worn, so those two things didn't need to be dealt with. The whole point of us tearing this completely down is we put new bearings in on each side of the limited slip, and we also are putting in new bearings on the shafts and everything else. But while you're there, you might as well go ahead and do a complete servicing. You know, you heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. Try to stay away from using any kind of silicone for assembling of aluminum parts, even if it's aluminum distilled, especially aluminum distilled. You'll always see me use this stuff. This is just basically a tar-based material that is called forming a gasket. And before I put the actual limited slip in, I'm going to put this around the base. I'm going to put it on this and I'm going to put it on that. I'm going to let it tack up a little bit. Not much, because you don't want it to completely dry on. Although this stuff never really truly dries. And you don't want to get carried away with it. You just want to put a nice thin coat on. And the reason silicone doesn't really work for aluminum is because it doesn't have anything really adhered to. The metal tends to be, steel that is, tends to be a little more porous. And so by being porous, there's something for silicone to stick to. With aluminum, not so much. So I'm going all the way around this. And I'm not getting carried away with it. And by the way, while I'm doing this, you saw me putting the special nut back on for the ring and pinion, or I should say just the pinion gear. And when you torque that, you got to torque it to about 70 pounds, and then come back at it a little bit later and get at least 80, 90 pounds once everything's done. I don't try to do the final torque until it's completely assembled. But once it's completely assembled, then torque it to somewhere close to 100. Okay, so we've got a nice thin coat on that. Now we'll do a thin coat on this, and that'll do this. You have to get over the fact they got it cool. And excuse me, I'm getting over the flu. Putting one last round of assembly lube in here. This is some incredibly thick and sticky stuff. It's really good to set these bearings with this on there. I already have some inside here that we'll just smear around the base. A little bit on the pinion gear itself. The reason I'm doing that is because I don't want these two products to rub against one another completely unlubed until we're ready to run this thing. Inside of the sleeving bearing. When I rotate this, it'll pull in and it'll start secreting itself through the bearing itself. And there it goes. That is very lubed up. And when I see this gasket forming material start to go a little dull and not so wet looking, that's where you want to be. At that point, it's starting to ready to bond. Putting the nuts all around the radius, and yeah, I'm using some thread lock, and that might be overkill, but it's what I do. Anyway, with that said, you should really pay attention to the hardware that's on these outputs. It's really fantastic. Study the base of these nuts. See if there's almost like a raised edge, almost like there was a washer bonded to it. That's important to know, because that's the side that always comes in contact. So you don't have the washer side up, you have the washer side down. It's just another nice little thing that you see on this original factory hardware that it's not really replicated back out there in the reproduction world. So, as we said before, whenever you can, you should always repurpose the original hardware. So once I get all these nuts in all the way around, then we'll go back and we'll snug them down with a wrench. And after that, we'll torque them to about 14 foot-pounds each, and that is it. I'm not going to lock down the tabs until this thing's almost ready to go back in the car.